What's up, everybody? My name is Josh LaFleur from Late Star Piano. Today I'm going to be explaining to the adult beginner pianist, where do you start with learning the piano? Now, this is a really good question because, like anything, there's so much information now that's out there online, on YouTube, and just so much out there as far as books that the information can be attained so easily. It can actually be a bad thing at times because you get overwhelmed and you get lost, and now you have no idea where to begin because you have so much information coming in at you all at the same time. So this video is going to help the adult beginner actually figure out where to start at the piano and shut out those distractions. First thing that you can do, and the most important thing by far, is get a teacher. If you really want to learn how to play the piano and you want to make progress quickly and you want to make sure that you stick with it, get a piano teacher. They're going to help you learn how to play. They're going to give you the structured guidance so that you're not going through all these different sources of information. You have one source of information, which is actually good. That's a good thing. As long as they know what they're talking about, if you have that one source of information, you learn everything from them. You can block out all the other distractions and all the other sources out there so you can actually stop wasting time thinking about what to do and actually start doing it. That's one of the biggest positives of having a teacher is they'll tell you exactly what you need to do, and all you need to do at that point is just execute on what they told you. So you don't have to spend time and spend mental energy trying to figure out what you should be doing. You can just act on what they told you. They can also, obviously, if it's in person, they can see what you're doing, or even on Zoom, they can see what you're doing, they can hear what you're doing, they can give you pointers, they can correct the mistakes that you're making right there on the spot. So piano teachers, it's a great investment. I know it costs money. If you're serious about playing the piano, and if you know you're going to stick with it, just get the teacher, and that's going to be a huge thing for you, a huge positive aspect, and you're going to be so glad you did. After a year of lessons, you are going to be so much better than what you are right now. And again, it also takes off a lot of the stress and the pressure of trying to figure out what you're doing because they're going to guide you through everything and they're going to help you avoid common pitfalls and mistakes that they made when they were learning so that you don't have to, so that you can get better quick. Second thing you can do, this is the second best thing any beginner adult can do when learning the piano, is if you don't want to get a teacher or you don't have the money, fine, I get it. Next best thing you can do is get a method book. Now, what is a method book? A method book takes you from one point and it gives you the same kind of structure and guidance, and it takes you to this point up here. So a great example of this is the Alfred's series. So this is the Alfred All-in-One. This is what I use to give lessons. This is the level 2 book. That's the level 2 Alfred's book. And what's good about that one, the all-in-one version, is it teaches you about technique. It also teaches you about music theory. And it also, again, is systematized so that each song gets progressively harder. So it might show you a new concept, then you play the song with the new concept in it. You might do that for 2 or 3 songs. After that, it gives you another new concept. And then you learn that new concept, you play it for 2 or 3 songs, the songs get progressively harder, and you just keep going all the way. And again, it's a ton of information with the music theory as well, so it can be very helpful. Even if you don't know how to read music, I know for a fact the Alfred's All-in-One method book teaches you how to read music as well. So it literally starts you from absolute ground zero. You don't know how to read music, you don't know how to sit at the piano, you don't know what the names of the notes are, none of that matters. The method book will teach you all of this. And again, it's a lot better than just trying to search for YouTube for random videos or trying to Google things because it's systematized. It's going to take you step by step to improve, and it's going to give you all the information that you need for your level. And you will progress if you stick with the method books. That's the whole point. And it's not like you have to only play it on the method books. If, let's say, you get halfway through, if you're feeling pretty good about where you are level-wise, maybe you try to search online for sheet music that you want to play. Maybe something like Over the Rainbow, or some easy version of The Entertainer or Amazing Grace, some kind of easy pop song, maybe like Let It Be by the Beatles, something pretty easy like that to play on the piano. If you can do that and you feel comfortable doing that, that's great. You can also throw that in while you're still going through the method books as well. But the method books will give you that structure, they'll give you that guidance, they'll take you from point A to point B, And again, they'll do it step by step so you're not overwhelmed, but at the same time, you're still being challenged to improve. So that's point number 2. Point number 3 is, as a brand new adult beginner piano player, when I was first starting, I did not realize how important that chords were when playing the piano. Chords are so important when first starting out on the piano because, first of all, they give you the music theory so you can understand what is happening in the music and why certain chords are being played at certain times. Second of all, they help with your technique because if you're arpeggiating the chords or you're playing chord inversions, it's going to work on your technique because to play arpeggios and to play inversions of chords, you have to move. Okay, so it's not like you're staying in one spot and just hitting the same 5 notes over and over. To play these chords and inversions and arpeggios, you have to actually move your hand and change positions. There's a lot of positions changes when you play any kind of chord progression. Some are easier than others, but it's a great spot for beginners to do, to learn chords because they need to learn how to change positions. Another thing that it helps them with is their hand coordination. So if you're playing chords in the left hand and you have some melody in the right hand, even if it's super basic, now both of your hands, your left hand and your right hand, are doing 2 different things at the same time. That's also really good for beginner piano players because now you're working on your hand coordination. You're working on your dexterity, right? Because your fingers might be in different spots. You might have like the pinky, middle finger, thumb on this hand, and then you're playing like your index finger and your ring finger on your right hand, something like that. So you're working on using different fingers as well with the chords. And songs are basically made up of chords and melodies. So if you're playing the chords, then it's already going to start to sound like the song. And you might already know this, but common chord progression is like the 1, 5, 6, 4, which is talking about the number of the chord as it relates to the key, right? So if you're a beginner, you have the C major scale, just playing the notes from C up to C. There's chords built on each scale degree. So you have a C major chord, which is built on the 1. You have a G major chord, which is built on the 5th. C, D, E, F, G, that's 5. Then you have the A minor, C, D, E, F, G, A, that's built on the 6th degree of the C major scale. And then you have the 4, which is F major. Okay, so you can have C major, 1, 5, 6, 4. That would be, in the key of C major, it would be 1. It would be C major, G major, A minor, and then 4 major, F major. Okay, C major, G major, A minor, F major. And once you start to learn that, now you can kind of play around with other keys and again, expand your knowledge. So chords are super, super helpful. And you can also make up a lot of exercises with them, even on your own. You can kind of play around with things and just see how they sound. So now you're working on your ear as well. You're working on your improvisation. All these things come from learning chords and practicing playing chords. So that's another thing you should do is get some kind of book with the chords or just Google things or just honestly just play around with it. Find how to find a major chord. I have a whole video about that, how to find every single chord. Pick maybe a major chord, a minor chord, and then a major chord, and just play around. See what sounds nice, right? Just pick any note, build a major chord off of that, play the chord, pick another random note, make it a minor chord, build a minor chord off of that, and then pick a third random note, build another major chord, and just play it. See how it sounds. See what you think about it. You'll be working on your ear, you'll be working on your improvisation. And again, once you get better at this, you can add in your right hand, add in a melody. Now you are literally improvising and using your ear to play the piano. Something a lot of beginners don't do. They don't really do that. They just read the sheet music all the time, which is fine. But you also want to be able to work on your ear and work on your improvising, especially if you're more the creative type. You don't really want to play classical music. You want to create your own stuff. That's going to help you. And chords are a foundation of playing the piano. So don't be shy about jumping into those. Next thing is the bench height. So how do you sit at the piano in relation to the piano? A lot of people, they kind of mess around with this, especially if you don't have an adjustable bench. Definitely get an adjustable bench. Get one that has knobs on the side. You'll see what I'm talking about if you on Amazon. Don't get one that you have to kind of slide up and down because you can't make those micro adjustments that you really need to make sure it's perfectly aligned to you and that you're perfectly sitting the right way in relation to you. So get a piano bench with one of the knobs on it or 2 knobs on it so you can make the micro adjustments and get it perfectly. Get your height correctly so when you're sitting down at the piano, you have this 90-degree angle in your elbow and you have your hand, your wrist, your forearm are all in line. They're all in one piece. What you don't want is if you're sitting too high, your elbow is way up here, and now you have this downward angle. That's not what you want. That means you're sitting too high. Likewise, if you're like this, if you have this V shape in here, and then your hand's kind of curving up, so you have another V shape like this, that means you're sitting too low on the piano. So it should be about 90 degrees. Everything should be level. Everything should be right in line and in a row. That's what you're looking for when you play the piano. When you sit down at the piano, how far should your bench be back? You want to have it so that your right knee, your kneecap, is right under the board of the piano. So you don't need your right knee way under the piano. You don't want your right knee way in front of the piano where it's not under it at all. You should be able to sit down and lift your knee up. Just sit down, lift your knee up, and it should barely be able to get by from under the piano without actually hitting it. If you can do that and you have this right angle in your elbow and everything's aligned, that's the perfect bench height for you. I'm bringing all that up to say because a lot of beginners struggle with the right posture, how they should be sitting at the piano, and it's going to be different for everybody because everybody has different body proportions. Some people are taller like me, they have longer arms, they might have to sit further back from the piano. Some people, they're like the bodybuilder type, they're on the shorter side, but they're much huskier with shorter arms, they might have to sit closer to the piano. You want to figure out where you need to sit down so that the playing part becomes much easier. Because if you're sitting way too high or way too far back or way too close or way too low, you're going to make actually playing the piano much more difficult than it needs to be. That's not what you want as a beginner player. You want everything to be as easy as possible. So find the right sitting position for you, and it'll make everything else really easier. It will set you up for success. Last point I hear, I think this is point number 4 or 5, is you need to stay consistent. So as a beginner piano player, you need to stay consistent. Don't be the person who's playing for 3 hours every single day or 3 hours one day a week and then they don't touch the piano again. Don't be the person who you're paying for lessons from your piano teacher and the only time you touch your piano is during the lesson. Don't do that. That's 90% of students, that's what they do, especially if they're younger because maybe their parents are paying for the lessons, they don't care. I would hope as an adult beginner, if you're paying for piano lessons out of your own pocket, you do care and you care enough to practice outside of just the lesson that you're being given. So just make sure you stay consistent, set a schedule for yourself. I've just made a whole video about this. Set a schedule for yourself, stick to it, be consistent, and just make sure you get it done. Be consistent in practice. So that's what all beginner piano players, that's where you can start playing the piano. Those are some great tips that I did and that helped me to be able to get better. Hope that helps. Again, any questions, comments, let me know. Drop them in the comment section. My name is Josh LaFleur from Late Start Piano, and let's get to practicing.